You look at the news, you scroll through your feed, and it just feels like the whole world is on fire, right? It can feel overwhelming, hopeless even. So the big question we're tackling today is peace even possible anymore? We're going to break it all down because you have to understand a problem before you can even begin to find a solution.
And really, everything we're about to talk about, it all boils down to this. This quote from a young boy in a war zone, it just cuts right through all the noise. This isn't some abstract political debate. This is about a kid who just wants the most basic human need, to feel safe enough to fall asleep. That's the real cost, and it's why we have to have this conversation.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, we first need to diagnose the problem. We've got to look at the cold, hard data to see the true scale of what we're really up against.
56. Just let that number sink in for a second. According to the Copenhagen Peace Report, that is the number of active conflicts happening around the world right now. To give you some context, that is the highest number of wars going on at the same time since the end of World War II. This isn't just a few isolated spots. This is a global crisis.
And what's happening underneath all this conflict? Well, there's this really critical political shift going on. For the first time in more than 20 years, autocracies, and that's just a way of saying governments where one person or a tiny group holds all the power, they now outnumber democracies. And this matters a lot. Because as the data shows, when authoritarianism rises, things like justice, human rights, and ultimately peace tend to decline.
And the human cost of all this instability? Well, it's just staggering. We're talking about nearly 120 million people. That's how many have been forcibly pushed out of their homes as refugees or migrants. These are people fleeing violence, all searching for that one basic thing, a safe place to sleep.
So, the world's on fire? What are we doing about it? Well, this next part really questions our whole approach. It's all about where we, as a global community, are putting our resources.
Just look at this. This chart tells you pretty much everything you need to know about our global priorities. Last year, we spent a mind-boggling $2.7 trillion on military stuff. Now compare that to what we spent on development aid, things like food, education, and health. Roughly $208 billion. You do the math. For every single dollar we spend trying to build things up, we're spending about $13 on weapons. It's wild.
And here's the kicker. All that money we're pouring into security, it's not actually making us safer. It's a vicious cycle, right? Countries produce arms, then they have to sell them. And once they're sold, you know they're going to be used. So we're not breaking the cycle of violence. We're literally fueling it with trillions of dollars.
Okay, so if throwing trillions at weapons clearly isn't working, then what's the alternative? This is where we pivot. We're going to shift from looking at the problem to a completely different kind of solution. And it's all built around this really powerful ancient idea, reconciliation. Now, when you hear the word reconciliation, you might just think of saying, "I'm sorry," right? But it's so much deeper than that. If you look at the original Greek and Hebrew roots of the word, it's about restoration. It's about covering over a wrong, atoning for it. It's about taking something that's totally broken apart and making it whole again. And you know, if you look at it through a faith lens, this idea is absolutely central. You could actually see the entire biblical story as this one epic journey of reconciliation, starting from a place of separation and moving step by step back toward restored unity. It's a powerful model for how to mend what's broken in our own world.
And this isn't just some abstract theological idea. This verse from 2 Corinthians makes it really clear. It frames reconciliation as a mission, a job to do. It's this active plea, we implore you, be reconciled. And it says we're supposed to be ambassadors in that whole process. That gives us a role to play.
All right, that all sounds great, but how do we actually do that? How do we take this big spiritual concept and make it work in the real world, today? Let's get practical. You know, there's this ancient story about a guy named Joseph, and it's like a perfect roadmap for this. I mean, think about it. His own brothers betray him, sell him into slavery. It's the ultimate wrong. But then years later, he's in this position of incredible power. He could have crushed them. But what does he do? He chooses grace instead of revenge. And that single choice leads to the complete healing and restoration of his entire family. It's an incredible example of how radical forgiveness can actually work.
And this is where it gets really personal. The principle is simple. Our vertical relationship, you could say with God, and our horizontal relationships with other people, they're completely tied together. You can't really fix one if the other one's still broken.
So what can we do? What does our reconciliation plan look like? Well, it breaks down into 4 steps. Step 1, confess and repent. That means owning our part in the problem and actually committing to change. Step 2, forgive as we've been forgiven.
Extend that same grace to others. Step 3, and this one's huge for our communities, replace hate with dialogue. Let's choose to talk instead of fight. And finally, step 4, be courageous in love. And I don't mean love as a passive feeling. I mean love as a bold, active choice you make every day.
Look, it is so easy to feel overwhelmed by all the conflict and think, what can one person even do? But I love how the poet Rosemary Watola Trommer puts it. The invitation isn't to solve every war tomorrow. The invitation today is simple, and it's personal, to be ridiculously courageous in love.
And that's really the question we're left with, isn't it? It's true, one willing heart can't stop a war on its own. But what if it's the only place that real, lasting peace can ever actually begin?